707 horsepower, this Hellcat-powered Challenger SRT isn't the most powerful production V8 on the road. It's close though, 20 horses off the McLaren P1 before you add the electric motors. But with a starting price of $60,000, this Challenger represents the least expensive collection of horses you'll find anywhere. Now, when you have a claimed 707 horsepower, how can you start anywhere else than what's underneath this aluminum hood? There it is, the Hellcat V8. Now, when you have 707 horsepower as a goal, where do you start? What do you do? Well, if you're Dodge, in this case, you take your existing 6.4 liter engine and basically replace 90% of it. You de-stroke the bottom end, you put in a beefier crank. It's forged, as are the connecting rods and the pistons. You add oil cooling squirters on each piston as well, so they can withstand all the pressures and heats that this thing's gonna create. Now, on top of the aluminum heads, you add this 2.4 liter blower. It's supplied from IHI, it's a twin screw type. It generates 11.6 PSI at max boost. It takes 80 horsepower just to run the thing. Now for cooling, 700 horsepower is gonna make a ton of heat. So you need a cooling system robust enough to match that. Now there's all kinds of heat exchangers and charge coolers in the supercharger, heat exchangers throughout the engine, and Dodge says it's robust enough to keep this thing working at 100-degree temps. We're of course gonna test that. Now that we've talked about everything that makes the engine so crazy and awesome, we also have to consider everything downstream from that horsepower and torque. There are other important things about a car, like turning and stopping. So to that end, we come to the tire, wheel, and suspension, and brakes too. We have 20-inch diameter, 9.5-inch wide wheels at all four corners, and here they're wrapped with Pirelli P0 summer tires, 275/40, also at four corners. The standard tire is an all-season, which is pretty crazy. Now brakes, this is another first for Dodge in terms of size. They're all supplied by Brembo. They're slotted and vented. The front rotors are 15.4 inches in diameter, and they have 6 piston calipers. At the rear, they're 13.8 inches with 4 piston calipers. Now, going further back, right here is going to be the flaps that open and shut the exhaust to make it nice and loud whenever you get into the throttle. We also have the completely new rear axle and limited slip, and this is going to be across all Challengers. You need this kind of durability to withstand the drag launches and abuse that this car, let's face it, you're going to make it go through. Now, when Dodge was building the Hellcat, they actually had to make completely new dyno rooms because their existing stuff couldn't handle all the power and torque. Now, with that in mind, I think it's time we find out how much power this puts to the rear tires. The Hellcat proved remarkably consistent on UTI's dyno. Over 4 runs, it drew beautifully shaped power and torque curves, varying in peak horsepower by 6 and torque by only 2 pound-feet, while at peak figures of 669 horsepower and 606 pound-feet are amazing. It's the engine's rapid response and constant delivery that make it feel so immensely powerful. While the Challenger has launch control, we got the best acceleration without it. The trick was launching it in second gear and then shifting over to automatic once it hooked up. Dodge claims an 11.2 second ET using a prepped surface for launching. We didn't launch on a prepped surface. One thing that I haven't been able to do much on the road yet is this. That's really fast. Third gear, roll on. It sounds so good. The Challenger Hellcat is a hell of a car. 707 horsepower claimed, and as we know from at the rear wheels, a lot more than that. The power is everywhere, and it is immense everywhere. But I have to admit, the thing that strikes me the most about this car isn't just the power, it's how well it's integrated into the rest of the car. This is a really nice car to drive at slow speeds. Now you may hear that and go, who cares? But getting that right is a real challenge. If you can make 700 plus horsepower drivable, if you can make that power smooth and easily tractable, and that's what this car is. Okay, so you got the torque, of course. You have the torque that's there, and that feels great. But there's the charisma of the car and the show around the power. The blower whine sounds so cool, and it matches the power delivery that when you're driving around town, you just dip into it slightly. Keep in that sound, stay in that acceleration surge, and then you end up going way too fast. But that's okay, it's fine. You enjoy it. Oh man. This car isn't a sports car, nor is it a luxury car. It's more inching towards the Grand Touring type, and that's a really nice thing. Compare that with the Mustang and the Camaro, which are in this performance pissing match, which is really great if you're into performance cars and you're an enthusiast. The Challenger's always kind of been the outlier, even back with the 392. It's the one you just kind of want to drive to nowhere in particular and enjoy the experience of doing that. You don't care about lap times, about quarter-mile trap speeds, or whatever. It's something you can just sit in, relax, and drive for long distances and enjoy. And this Hellcat still embodies that. It just has 700 horsepower, so you can fill in holes in traffic that much easier or pass people that much faster. What a terrific car. In fact, the only thing I don't like about this car are the tires. They're pretty skinny, they heat up really quickly. You can slide the crap out of them, and that feels great. But this thing with a really nice set of summer tires would be pretty fun, I have to imagine. Pretty fun, because these tires feel really good until they heat up, and they heat up very quickly. This is a big, powerful, heavy, uniquely American car, and it nails that. It really embraces that and takes it as far as it can go. And you have to admire that sort of attitude. It's just unabashed Challenger right here. The Challenger Hellcat is the unquestionable production muscle car king when it comes to the quarter mile. You of course have to wonder what happens when you let it stretch its legs a little bit, like let's say over a standing mile. 8.1 seconds at 173.8 miles an hour. Not bad for a Challenger. For whatever aerodynamic disadvantages this 4,500-pound Challenger has, they didn't show up there. In fact, the Challenger was so stable that all the safety gear I was wearing felt unnecessary. It's easy to go on about the power. It is, of course, outstanding and absurd. But focusing on it almost does the Challenger a disservice. How it handles that power, how it makes it feel accessible is so remarkable. A pleasant ride, a well-appointed interior, and impressive seating and storage capacity make you start thinking this may be a grand touring car. There is one thing we know for sure though. In terms of acceleration, boulevard cruising, and the size of the crowd that forms around it when you park, this Challenger Hellcat can't be anything but the king of today's muscle cars.